As far as we know, ReSDA is the largest social science research project ever proposed for the circumpolar north. We currently have 51 researchers involved in 29 universities in 9 countries, and so we're quite pleased that we were able to put together this network project, and hopefully we won't blow it, and hopefully we'll do a good job with the funds that the Government of Canada has graciously accorded us. As many of you know, the main focus of ReSDA is very simple. That was one of when we started this project, the message that we had gotten, I'll talk a bit about that in a second, from the people that wanted this project in the first place was quite simple. They wanted to find out how communities in the north could get more from the natural resources than they've been getting in the past, and how they could get those resources developed in a way that they benefit, and so that they don't have to pay the cost. So that's the basic idea. And so the main focus of our research is to finding ways to ensure that communities get a larger share of the benefits of resource development for fewer costs in the communities. We want to mobilize researchers around questions of how to maximize benefits, therefore, of resource development to northern regions and communities, and minimize the social, economic, cultural, and environmental costs. And so, as well, the objective is to cultivate innovative approaches to the best ways of using natural resources to improve the well-being of northern communities while preserving the region's unique ecosystem. So that's the basic idea that we've heard about 10 times through various emails and other communications. One thing that we've never done is sort of give many of you a sort of history of where it came from. Some of you, it came from an email that I sent you last year asking if you'd like to be part of it, and this is what we're thinking of doing. But it does have a bit of a history, it goes back several years. It really came out of another research project that many of you have been involved in, the Social Economy Research Network for Northern Canada, or CERNICA as we like to call it. That was a project that is still continuing, that attempted to find ways of using community groups, to sort of nonprofit, voluntary, cooperative community groups, to improve the well-being of northern communities to a greater extent. How to use that sector of communities to improve the lives of northern communities. And so that's been a long-standing research project that was started actually in 2006. And during that project, one thing we've been doing is we've going around to different communities in the Canadian North and have what we call research workshops, where we talk to the representatives of the community groups about the research that we've been doing, and we get feedback from the community groups, direction from the community groups. And one thing that we'd like to do at the end of each of those research workshops is basically ask the question, you know, if you had a group of social science researchers who were willing to research anything that your community felt was important, what do you think that those social science researchers should be doing? So we're basically asking the communities, you know, what they think we should be looking at. And there was quite a few responses we had, but time and time again, the answer was, well, you know, how do we get more of the resources that we're developing? I mean, the realization that these communities were dependent on resources, and for the future, the only way of ensuring healthy futures for these communities was to try and find ways that what went wrong in the past doesn't happen in the future. That every time that there's a mining boom, it doesn't hurt the community, it actually helps the community. There has to be some way we can find out how to do this in a better way. And so that was a message we got from a lot of people. I don't think climate change was ever mentioned once in any of those research projects. Yeah, it was that idea of needing some sort of sustainable future to avoid the mistakes of the past. And so that's where this came from. And so when it came time to decide where we were going to move on from CERNICA, we decided to take that theme and develop a research idea for the MCRI program, and we did this proposal. But we had also worked on a similar proposal, not similar in the sense that it wasn't restricted to the social sciences. A year before, some of us had been involved in a network of centers of excellence proposal, which was around the same basic idea, but because it was a network of centers of excellence, it wasn't sort of more committed to the communities themselves. And so that helped, but this one we wanted to sort of do something that was more committed to the communities, and that's what the idea behind this particular one. It was also inspired at several other international workshops. The international researchers who are here will know that there have been several conferences and workshops that were held internationally that talked about this idea of the importance of research development. Those of you who work in Russia know about the importance of resources in northern Russia, and so it was also inspired by that. So that's where this idea came from. It was developed in probably not the most logical fashion. Many of you know that there was several processes. There was a letter of intent process where I frantically contacted many of you saying, here's what we have. Just before Christmas, I think in 2009, I know it's Christmas time, but here's my proposal. Give me feedback so I can write a proposal for an LOI. And obviously, people have better things to do at Christmas time than respond to an LOI. But some of you did, and that was great. And so I took what people had suggested and tried to integrate into a proposal, which was sent in February 2010, I think was the LOI. We got that proposal. We got accepted as an LOI, then we got the word, I guess, in April 2010, and then I spent the summer of 2010 traveling around the Canadian North, talking to Canadian partners about what they wanted in the proposal. I also was sending emails just once again during the summer, here's our proposal so far, we have to have it in by the 31st of August. Feedback would be great. Of course, summertime's not the best time to get people to feedback on research projects. And so it wasn't really done in the most logical way. But some of you did provide feedback, and that's great. And that was integrated into the final proposal, which we submitted on the 1st of September, the 1st of September of 2010. We then had to go through a process of review. We had 7 reviewers. How many reviewers did we go through? There was a lot of reviewers we had to deal with. We had an interview in last November?
Last year.
An interview with the Shirk, and it was a long process, and then finally we found out in December that indeed we had been selected for the MCRI, and we started work from then. It's been a long haul to where we are now. In terms of the structure, I just sort of spend a bit of time introducing you to the structure. Once again, these are questions that if you have any questions about this, you can ask me now, but if more specific questions, you can ask me independently or on Friday afternoon if we have time. But generally, it's based on 4 themes: sustainable regions, sustainable communities, sustainable cultures, and sustainable environments. And we hope to have research in those themes sort of generally grouped together. We also have 3 types of research questions. Those questions that are sort of fixed on measuring what the impacts of the resource developments are, analyzing those impacts, and then finally a 3rd type of research question which tries to deal with those impacts, more policy-oriented research questions. In terms of the structure of ReSDA, that's the structure. We have a main steering committee. The steering committee is composed of the 4 theme coordinators and a partner institution in each of the regions. And so the main partners are the Yukon Research Institute, the Aurora Research Institute, Nunavut Research Institute, Makivik Incorporated, the Labrador Institute, Arctic Cooperatives, and an international representative to be named later. So that's the steering committee that directs, that's the main governing body, if you will, for official decisions on things related to ReSDA. We have as well sort of a scientific / management committee, which is composed of the 4 of us and Val, our coordinator. Val, where are you? There. Based in Yukon College at the Yukon Research Institute. And so a lot of the day-to-day decisions will be made by that sort of committee. And we hope to set up 5 coordination offices, 1 in each of the regions of the Canadian North, and then we have to sort of figure out what to do about the international linkages that are involved in ReSDA. Because ReSDA is not, even though it's paid for by the Canadian government, primarily by the Canadian government, we really want ReSDA to be an international research project. And part of the difficulty is to sort of not be too fixated on the issues in the Canadian North, but to try and use the issues in the Canadian North to link to other parts of the circumpolar North. Okay, the purpose of this year's workshop, as we pointed out, first of all, in June, some of you remember we sent you an email at the beginning of June trying to point out what we thought we would do at the beginning, and at that time we pointed out that recognizing that when it came to the development of the proposal, many of you didn't have really an opportunity to say what you thought you should say in terms of the development of the research ideas, research questions. And so we wanted to allow you some time, at least at the beginning of this project, to make sure that when we do this project, we do it right. And that the way that we had developed it, it was developed in a sort of a frantic way at different times of the year. We wanted to make sure that we took the time now and got the important questions that we need to answer at the beginning. And that we do this in a sort of an efficient, coordinated way that can really benefit communities. So that's what we hope out of this particular workshop is to talk about people's ideas of what we should do. We don't want to talk about specific projects right now. We want to talk about people's ideas of we have 7 years. What can we really do to do something special, to sort of answer these pressing questions of how we can develop innovative ways of helping communities get better use out of natural resource development, and so that they don't suffer under resource development, they actually benefit by those developments. So that's what we want to do today.